The bottom line is we've got cards left to play, and they've got money left to spend.
We've already produced more than 1,000 vehicles which are on the road, primarily in Europe. In Europe, you can actually pre-order them for just shy of 25,000 euros, excluding any subsidies, and that allows us to actually cater to the mass market and deliver value for money to our customers.
I've looked at this report. Nothing to me was a huge shock, other than the fact that Elon Musk was relatively downbeat.
Well, Elon would say that the bigger issue is that they're getting people to afford the car, and that's why he's spending so much effort to kind of whittle away at the cost behind it. It's a more of an issue of people being able to get into the vehicle, not that they know about it. He essentially argued that everybody knows about this car and want it, but they just can't afford it.
All that and more. So let's get to it. After the closing bell on Friday, Tesla closed under $213 per share. The sell-off is a bit of an overreaction to things that people should already know. The stock is actually below my support of $215. Should it plunge below $200 per share, I'll have to strongly consider exhausting my cash reserves for a couple of calls that expire in 2026. For the week, Tesla's down over 15%. 3 months, down 20%. And year to date, we're just a little under 80% gains. Still positive if you go back an entire year. Whether you're investing for the long haul or trading in the short term or both, it doesn't get much more exciting than owning TSLA.
UAW President Shawn Fain wrapping up his weekly update just moments ago. There is no expansion of the auto workers' strike, but Fain stood firm to work on getting what he thinks is a better deal for his members. The two sides do appear to be getting closer.
The bottom line is we've got cards left to play, and they've got money left to spend. That's the hardest part of a strike. Right before a deal is when there is the most aggressive push for that last mile. They just want to wait us out. They want division. They want fear. They want uncertainty. And what we have is our solidarity.
Notice he was not wearing an Eat the Rich t-shirt this time. Joining us now, Autolist Editor-in-Chief David Underkoffler to talk more about this. So, does it feel like there's a deal or deals that are imminent here, David?
It seems like they're getting closer, right? I think most notably is what didn't happen on this call, and that there were no new plant closures announced. Basically, he went through line by line and said, you know, these are the things we've been arguing for, and then laid out how each of the three automakers had, you know, the case that they had presented up until now. So in that way, you could sort of see in which case each automaker was the lowest denominator. And I think what he's looking for is for there to be parity across those key points he's been fighting for. And, you know, I think if we're getting closer, we may see that in the coming weeks.
No doubt, this is good news that the strike isn't expanding. But I'm going to tell you right now, folks, we are in the eye of the storm. When Shawn Fain says he still has cards to play, I'm under the inclination this is going to get worse before it gets better. But whatever comes next, the pain will probably be short-lived. The strike has gone on long enough. What's the saying? I've come too far just to come this far? I read it somewhere on the internet.
And David, among the issues, it's interesting. So there's a lot of them. You know, it's wages, it's pensions, it's also the battery factories. So GM did agree to include the future EV battery factors in that UAW national agreement. David, I'm wondering, do you think the other big automakers also agree to that?
Ooh, that's a good question. And I think that's probably the largest outstanding question right now. Like, for all the talk, sort of the daily updates you're hearing about, it's wage increases, it's cost of living adjustments, it's increases to pension and retirement plans. But sort of in the background of all that is this sort of larger existential question of the impact of EVs. They're simpler to build, they take fewer people to do so. And so the UAW longer term is looking at, you know, how can we make sure that our workers are protected as the industry shifts towards EVs. So it certainly was a big step, a big win for the UAW to get General Motors to make that concession. I do think that's one of the areas that now they're saying, well, we have one win, right? We've got General Motors saying that. They're going to take that, and they're certainly going to use that as leverage to Ford, or with Ford and Stellantis. So yeah, that could be a big shoe to drop. And I would imagine, you know, if they do see movement there, that helps, get us across the finish line.
You hear that, folks? That is the hammering of the nails that are going into the legacy automotive manufacturers. But I don't know what else you could do. I guess that's a question for the tomorrow CEOs for these companies, because it's going to be rough sledding for those that are currently holding these positions.
Right now, we're going to take a closer look at the EV market. For that, let's welcome in Ali Vetsvai, chairman of Next E.Go. Ali, thanks so much for joining us and congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Should note that you went public today on the NASDAQ under the ticker symbol EGOX. So just let's start by getting an overview of your company. We're hearing it's the iPhone on wheels. Fill us in.
iPhone on wheels, you say? Are you telling me there's a market for that?
Sure. Look, the story of E.Go is a story of innovation, technology, disruption, with focus on practicality and capital efficiency. And to take the analogy that you rightfully used, it's a smartphone on four wheels, because that's the future of affordable electromobility.
What? Just like VinFast, we've got E.Go coming out via SPAC. These new startups, they're going to be headhunting for these top spots. As grand as Tesla will be when it comes to the automotive market, they can't service everyone. It will be the software that separates every automotive manufacturer.
What we've seen in the market so far is the growth of electromobility becoming mainstream. And now, as that becomes mainstream, the focus will be primarily on execution, capital efficiency, and also delivering to cost. And this is what we've been primarily focused on, trying to go back and make sure that we reimagine the production technology and try to create disruption on that front by taking the cost out, reducing capex, creating flexibility, and accelerating time to market. On the other side, we take advantage of a different or unique set of material selection, which are inspired by the aviation industry, to take advantage of lightweight, more durability, recyclability, all of which aligns well with the future of this sector.
Okay, so tell us, how many vehicles are already on the road? Where are they? And how much do they cost?
Brass tacks, baby. Give it to me simple, guy.
We've already produced more than 1,000 vehicles which are on the road, primarily in Europe. In Europe, you can actually pre-order them for just shy of 25,000 euros, excluding any subsidies, and that allows us to actually cater to the mass market and deliver value for money to our customers.
So when you talk about catering to the mass market, are there any plans to enter the U.S. market? It seems very city-friendly in terms of the look of these cars. Potentially, will I see them in New York City at all?
Absolutely. Our passion and our vision from the outset has been to provide smart and practical solutions for the urban environment. U.S. and the New York City, as an example that you use, is a very, very good potential target for our cars. And the beauty of our solution is it's not just a car we want to export, it's the production technology and the production facility that comes with it. The beauty of our digital production solution at the back of our Internet of Production is that we can actually replicate, or for the lack of any better term, copy paste our microfactories for a fraction of the cost in a very short span of time from a country to another, and therefore not only brings the car to US, but also brings the production facility and the jobs associated with them. And this is what makes us very excited. And of course, particularly looking at the environment in US with the supports in different government programs, as well as the very, very solid and robust and growing market, US will be definitely on our radar as the next stop.
You can't help but wonder if the next generation platform is going to look something eerily similar to these vehicles. If they do, I'm not gonna buy one. Maybe it's my ego talking, but those things are ugly as shit. Forgetting about safety for a little bit, Elon did say that the next generation vehicle would be more utilitarian. Would still look decent, but would focus on being more functional than anything. This is the type of vehicle that will directly compete with the next gen vehicle. Maybe not this vehicle per se, but more likely something coming from BYD if I had to guess.
On what's driving the stock lower. Now we know it's earnings related, Tom, but I looked at this, kind of as the results came out, premium sellers delight, almost no movement. I guess then this thing called the conference call with the execs set the stock into a downward spiral.
Yeah, I think this was a conference call that the first time I've listened to Elon Musk where he was pretty downbeat about everything, not only the economy, but just in general. Maybe his personality was a little bit weaker than a lot of people expected on this conference call. They missed on EPS, they missed on revenue. Revenue was up 9% year over year, but missed estimates of $24.1 billion, came in at $23.4 billion. First time they missed on EPS and revenue since the second quarter of 2019. So not a good start there. If you looked at gross margins, on a gross basis, 17.9% versus 25.1% in Q3 of 2022. So year-over-year numbers continue to decline. We've talked repeatedly about the cost or price of their automobiles getting cut across the globe. They're trying to make efficiencies, but they're also spending too. And I think that was one of the caveats in the conference call, was that they continue to spend on AI, R&D, the Cybertruck, getting that up to production. Now, I think a lot of people were expecting the Cybertruck to be that catalyst that's going to drive the stock higher. They've got 1 million orders for it, right? Where you put down, I don't know, what is it, $100, $200 or something. They got 1 million orders for it, but they're not going to see any accretive probably margins or revenue from this that's profitable for 18 to 24 months. So that's probably another thing that hit the stock, was expectations pulled back a little bit for ramping up Cybertruck.
For clarity, real quick.
Let's be honest, folks. This is a brand new battery electric pickup truck with tons of new, unique technologies that Tesla's going to have to ramp up with the most cost efficiency. Directly, you're not going to see revenue, but it will drum up excitement for other Tesla products. This is a goddamn roving billboard for Tesla.com. And I'm just speaking from experience here. Once you get on Tesla.com, that's when the learning begins. And even though you may not want this truck, you're going to want to see what these guys are doing over there. And you might be compelled to buy something, if you know what I mean.
Hey, real quick here, when you're saying they're pre-orders, right? It's basically you're buying an option for the right to buy this thing down the line. These people aren't locked into buying these Cybertrucks,
no, not
right?
at all. You can just let it go. Yeah.
Yesterday, I said this thing's like the Vision Pro, and I stand by that. Like, these are two things that you see way too much coverage of.
Right.
They're really expensive, but they seem so niche. Like, I will be surprised if I see a Cybertruck driving around Chicago. I don't care how many they sell.
Well, you say that now, but then every time I see like a car that I'm not a fan of, and I see a bunch of them driving around the streets of Chicago, I'm like,
oh, I'm a fan. I just don't know how many of these are going to be driving around.
But okay, the one thing I will say, it's affordable. It's supposed to be like a relatively reasonably priced car. I'm a fan of the Cybertruck. But what I will say is that when looking at Tesla, margins were something we talked about for the last month into this report. We already knew deliveries. So was this really as big of a surprise as perhaps the price is telling us? I guess you can't argue with the fact that it is down 9%, but I've looked at this report. Nothing to me was a huge shock, other than the fact that Elon Musk was relatively downbeat. Actually, Wedbush calling it a mini disaster of a conference call.
Yeah. I think more than anything, the margin compression is not surprising, right? It's still above the OEMs in this space. So that's a positive. And, they've got the UAW strikes. Is he trying to get more volume, right? And then he's talked about a lower price car. He talked about interest rates being a headwind for the consumer right now. You can't buy a car right now because interest rates are so high. So he talked a little bit about that. Maybe that's the overall sentiment that he's feeling in the economy in general. So take that into consideration, that maybe sales aren't going to be as robust. But he did say 1.8 million cars going to be sold this year.
Last thing real quick here, Tom, my question to you. How much of this is a guy that we're not used to seeing downbeat?
Yeah.
As much as people are investing in Tesla, this seems like investment in Elon Musk, you could argue sometimes. And for a guy that's seen as sort of optimistic, forward-thinking, innovative, to have not even necessarily not that, it's not like he isn't confident in the things going, just a little bit more negative, a little bit more non-Elon-like. Do you think that's more the story here than even the numbers?
I think it's part of the story, and I don't think it's more of the story. I mean, there's no flamethrowers getting sent out during this.
No shot puts through windows.
Exactly. But that being said, I think the macroeconomic environment's really worrying him at this point. They did put some costs into the production lines also. They talked about opening that factory in Mexico. He's probably going to push back on that a little bit until they get some efficiencies in place. But not a good report. And look at valuations, Alex and Jenny. That's one of the key things I think people are starting to figure out. And I think that's what a lot of people had questions on. Is it an auto company or is it a tech company? Is it a hybrid of that? Because if it's an auto company, valuations have to come down even more than what the stock's selling off today, 9%, because it just doesn't equate to the numbers. But that being said, you know, Elon Musk in the past has figured it out. We'll see if he can figure it out again. But I think it's going to be maybe a quarter or two before we see some more fireworks. Watch November 30th. That's the official launch date of the Cybertruck. And we'll see how many they can produce.
The energy division is growing at an alarming rate. The supercharger network, Tesla Insurance, Tesla Electric, Dojo, and their efforts in AI, over-the-air software updates, simply the best automotive software on the market today. Autopilot features to include full self-driving beta, which will be licensed and adopted much like the supercharger network. In direct correlation, this same software will be put into a humanoid robot that can be mass-produced, conducting simple, repetitive, and at times dangerous tasks. All of this is on top of Tesla having the most exciting, robust product roadmap in the automotive industry. November 30th is the Cybertruck. Within the next year and a half or so, you'll have the next-gen platform unveiled. Value this like a regular automotive company if you want. I'll just laugh and redouble my efforts into investing in a company that will be worth trillions by the end of the decade.
I'm telling you guys, I'm gonna get a Cybertruck, and then we can do like a full tour of it.
What? I think Jenny just became my favorite news media analyst.
Let's talk about everything Musk and Teslarian. Joining us tonight is Gerber Kawasaki President and CEO Ross Gerber and Wall Street Journal tech reporter and CNBC contributor Tim Higgins, also the author of Power Play, Tesla, Elon Musk, and the Bet of the Century. Ross, obviously, listen, Tesla's made people a lot of money over the years. 1 week, a couple months does not a trend make. But I follow you on Twitter, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. You'd like to see some changes at Tesla regarding advertising and some other things, correct?
Yeah, I mean, as you go back a year, this is what caused me to run for the board, and we kind of came to terms, and Elon again reiterated that he would look into advertising, and they have done some things, but it's just such a minimal effort. And just now on X, we're going back and forth with Elon and Omar about the Sphere and what an amazing advertising vehicle this is in Vegas. And I was like, why isn't Tesla putting ads on the Sphere? So it's not like he doesn't hear me or see it. And I just don't understand the reluctance when every company in the world advertises, and there's a reason we do, because it actually works.
Well, you didn't need to advertise, Tim. If you had it, listen, I know people bought Teslas. I drove the first Tesla in, I think, 2009. I know people, they bought them. They're never going to drive anything ever again. They were like, you know, like almost a cult in a way, right? They would go up to somebody and say, dude, you got to drive my Tesla, right? With these big eyes and whatever. Now there's competition, Tim. Now there's actual competition, to Ross's point. Maybe you need to convince the non-believers why your car is better than the other guys.
No, that's the argument. Yeah, it used to be viral marketing, and now what do you got? Well, Elon would say that the bigger issue is that they're getting people to afford the car, and that's why he's spending so much effort to kind of whittle away at the costs behind it. It's a more of an issue of people being able to get into the vehicle, not that they know about it. He essentially argued that everybody knows about this car and want it, but they just can't afford it.
Yeah, do you think, Tim, that the price cuts are going to help? Because they're damaging margins, so they better work in getting more people's butts in a Model 3 and a Model Y.
Well, they've worked somewhat, but you think, you know, given how much they've cut, you perhaps think that the volume increases would have been maybe bigger. At least that's what some people talk to me say. You know, there is this argument that maybe it would be cheaper and better for the brand to be spending that money on advertising, at least to be kind of teaching or educating a new audience about the brand.
I'm okay with advertising. I am not opposed to advertising, but Tesla is not there yet. No matter how much they whittle away at the cost of the Model 3 and the Model Y, these interest rates still make those cars more expensive than anything else that most people that advertising will target can't afford. This isn't a $25,000 car. When you're talking about after rebates and all that other nonsense, the IRA tax credit barely impacts those middle to lower income. They're gonna be claiming the standard deduction anyway because they don't make enough money. Tesla in no way, shape, or form should be advertising before they introduce the next gen vehicle platform, the high volume, low cost option of a Tesla. None. The people that know about Teslas, that will buy Teslas at these prices, they don't need advertisement. They're going to go look for the best option in their price range if they're buying vehicles right now today. Advertising will not influence these individuals. The audacity of guys like Ross that think they deserve to be on the board because somehow they know better. Stay in your lane, know your role, and shut your fucking mouth. If you smell... Sorry, I had my alter ego come out.
You know, Ross, listen, Elon Musk, whatever you think of him, is going to be one of the greatest businessmen in the history of the world ever. But do you feel like he's stretched too thin?
Well, if you consider him a human being, I don't know how he's not. And, you know, if you look at reading his book, he basically works 3 years for every 1 year that the rest of us work. And he doesn't take any time off or vacations. And it takes a toll on people. You know, Elon and I are now in our early 50s. And you know, honestly, I'm exhausted just running one company with 2 kids. So, you know, I'm in a lot better shape than Elon, to be honest. So I think it's a point where you got to look at yourself and say, what, you know, I want to get to Mars and I want to build this company that's going to sell 20 million EVs. But, you know, is the toll X is taking on me, is it really worth it if it prevents me from getting to my real goals?
You think you should try to sell Twitter/X?
Well, I think Bill Ackman wants to help him buy it. So, you know, quite frankly, I'm an investor in X, to be honest. I'd love to be able to get my money out.
Like with everything, money talks, bullshit walks. And that is the primary reason I cannot have Ross on the board of Tesla. While everyone thinks about their wallet to some degree, I'm under the impression that Ross will be more focused on his pockets than accelerating Tesla's mission to transform the world into a sustainable energy economy. And it's not pure altruism on my part. I think there's gold in that their mission, noble as it may be. Guys like Ross get a little greedy, start making concessions. You know, it's best to stay away from that. In conclusion, we're in the eye of the storm at the UAW. It'd be nice if this Cat 5 hurricane dissipated into nothingness, but the odds of that happening slim to none. E.Go going public, VinFast via SPAC no less. Nothing to see here, 313 area code. Continue. The overreaction to Tesla's earnings call is well documented, but hey, cash is king unless Tesla drops below 200 and your boy won't have much cash left. And I can't stress this enough. Tesla does not need an aggressive ad campaign until their vehicles become more affordable to the total addressable market. I'm not against advertising. I'm against advertising needlessly when that money can be used to expand Tesla's growth profile. All the money that they're investing in AI, new products, R&D, factories around the world, advertising should be the last thing on anyone's mind. Let this company grow. That's all I got for you today. Be easy. Peace.